Hi guys! Happy day 3 for our challenge. I know it's kind of an extended day 3. Thank you guys for being patient with me yesterday when I kind of took a little pause from the live video. I was just feeling so crappy. I picked up a stomach virus, stomach flu this weekend, and it's just taken me a few days to get over it and feel less weak and feel a little bit better. So anyway, I feel in a better space to do a good video today since I think this is such an important topic. And really, it's going to just build on the things that we talked about already this week. So the videos from Mondays and Tuesday are really a great lead-in to this video. So I think it's important to watch those first and really try to wrap your head around some of those concepts, right? So I'm going to be referencing those videos as I'm talking today, because they really the whole time we're talking about how to manifest your goals, right? Like that's essentially infused in every part of this challenge. But I want to kind of just focus a little bit on that because it took me a while to understand sort of like the how of what that means. Like what do those words actually mean, right? So one of the things I talked about in the first video is acknowledging your intuition and letting that guide you into setting goals. And now we're at a point where we're talking about, okay, you're setting the goals, you're making your clear goal statements, you're creating your goal book, you're creating your vision board. And now we're talking about, how do you sort of put those goals out there into the universe or into the world? How do you create that reality, right? So when I think about that, one of the important things is to really acknowledge that you have a role in that, right? A huge role in creating your reality and creating what you want your world to look like and creating a world that supports those goals that you identified, right? And so understanding that, I think, is a really important first step and really critical in order to go any farther, right, down this road. So one of the important things I think to do that I have always heard and embraced in terms of trying to like manifest a goal that you're setting for yourself is being really aware of making sure that you're in a positive environment, particularly like in the beginning, right? So if you're writing down your goal, if you're taking some time to go through your goal book, sorry, hang on one second, let me just turn this off. Okay. So if you are taking a few weeks, let's say, to go through your goal book every day or look at your vision board or go through your goals every day, you want to make sure that you're maintaining a really positive environment throughout that period of time, right? So maybe transitioning or taking a few steps away from negative people, away from negative environments, paying attention to how much you're watching really negative news, what kind of movies you're putting into your environment, like all of these things that make up your world and sort of influence how you feel, right? Influence the energy with which you are consumed by, right? That kind of makes up your world, that makes up your space, really, as you're trying to kind of create these things. So staying in a positive space, being in a place of positive expectation, being in a place of happiness, feeling joy, feeling love, feeling contentment, feeling those positive emotions that are associated with those goals, right? So remember we talked about as you're creating your goal book, you want to take a few minutes to just sort of sit with each goal and feel the feeling associated with it and really focus on that feeling and kind of create that in your body, create that in your mind, create that in your soul, right? And really experience and connect with that feeling. So things that are constantly bombarding you with negative experiences, like negative experiences with people in your world, in your life, movies, news, things you read, that's pulling you out of that place, right? Pulling you out of that contentment feeling, that positive, joyful feeling, that thankful place, that place of positive expectation. It's just pulling you out of that headspace, right? So especially when I'm talking to people who have that tendency, like myself, right, where you really sink into the kind of vibes or energy of your surroundings pretty quickly and easily, right? It's sort of just a slippery process for you. It's easy, it happens effortlessly. So particularly for those folks, I feel like it's really, really important to pay attention to what's in your environment and to really focus on staying in a place of positivity. Obviously, that's not every single second, right? And it's kind of beyond the scope of this video to really talk a lot about kind of what happens when you're in a little bit of a negative space, which is fine. It happens all the time, right? But to walk yourself out of that to get into a more positive place. So paying attention to what you're doing on social media too, right? So like, are you in a bunch of groups that make you feel really good and positive and uplifted? Awesome. You know, are you using social media to like read articles that are positive, right? Maybe sometimes. But is it like, are you just sucked into that scroll of reading through people's feeds and there's negative things and there's stuff that's like frustrating or upsetting or people are trying to like instigate other people, right? Like, pay attention to what's in your world, like what's coming into your world, particularly during this time of setting new goals, going through your goal book, and really being able to like focus on that for a period of time. So maybe just take a break from some of that. Maybe we just put that on pause a little bit, right? So as I said before, if you did a goal book, I want you to be writing down your goals in there, pictures associated with it, and then take a minute to really sink into the feelings associated with it. And as you're going through that book, maybe you're doing it a few times a day, maybe it's just once a day, but look at it every day for what I've heard is like at least 21 days, right? At least a period of 3 weeks. You could do it for a month, you could do it for whatever, right? But at least a period of 21 days. If you're wanting to give yourself some like focused effort and energy around it, that would be a good period of time. And so when you're feeling like, oh my gosh, okay, like I set this goal, nothing really feels like it's happening, I'm kind of getting frustrated, you can always just write down some of those worries, right? I'm a big fan of either writing them down, you can talk about them, you can somehow acknowledge them, whatever works for you, and then let them go, right? Acknowledge them, thank them for giving you information on why this goal is so important to you. Thank them for opening your eyes to how important this is to you, to how much meaning this has for you. You know, thank them for letting you experience what it's like to really want something, right? But then write down your worries, write down your fears, and move to a process of letting them go so you can transition yourself back into a place of positive expectation around this goal, right? And keeping your sort of eye on the prize. And what can be mixed in with that is something really fun, right? Is the encouragement around daydreaming, right? So if you have a few minutes, daydream about what it would be like to have that goal. Daydream what it would be like when that is yours, right? Operate from a place as if that already is yours, right? Start making decisions and living as if that already is your reality. Oh, excuse me. But when you have time to daydream, when you have a couple minutes to just sort of imagine whatever it is that you want to imagine, take a few minutes and think about your goals, right? Imagine what that would be like to have them. Imagine what it would feel like. Imagine what you would be doing. What would that look like, right? Create the imagery that's really important to you and just spend some time daydreaming, right? Even before you go to bed or as soon as you wake up or when you have a minute on the train or something, you know, there's lots of different times that it can be helpful for you to do that. Also, just take some time to meditate, right? I'm always saying that, but take some time to meditate on the goal or just sort of sit with it and imagine it, right? You can meditate on all kinds of different things, on topics, on nothing, on a concept, on an image. So if there's an image that really represents this goal for you, meditate on that, right? Spend some time just in silence around it, experience that. And make sure you're surrounding yourself with positivity, right? Be aware and careful around who you're sharing these goals with, right? Are you maybe a really open person, which can be a lovely, wonderful thing, but are you maybe sharing something with someone who might be negative or might respond negatively or tell you why you shouldn't have that goal or why that's never going to happen? And sometimes those words land, right? Sometimes they have an impact on us. So I want you to be really careful, especially during this period of time where you're really focusing on your goals, you're focusing on manifesting and creating your goals, to just be careful and be aware and take an extra second to think about, who do I want to share this with, right? Do I want to share this far and wide? Is this something that I want to just share with people I know who will be responsive, who will be positive, and maybe really think about that, because during this period of time, I want you to, and generally, right, I want you to surround yourself in positivity, around people who support you, who love you, who care about you, who want the same vision for your life, right, who want you to be succeeding in whatever that looks like for you, and want you to be comfortable with whatever goal it is that you set. So making sure you're being really careful about who is in your environment, who you're sharing that with, how you're sharing that, so that it can kind of hold the space that you want it to, and that you can be in a place of positivity with it. So another thing that can be helpful too, as we're going through this period, is just really being in a space of gratitude and thankfulness, right? So making sure that you're grateful for things that are happening in your life, making sure you're continuing to acknowledge and thank, whatever it is you feel connected to, for what those things are that you have in your life, and being really in a space of gratitude, can be really, really powerful during this time, right? And you're appreciating all of the little victories, all of the small things that are getting you closer to maybe a potentially bigger goal, right? Because if we set somewhat of a bigger goal, there are going to be all these different steps that happen before we get there, right? So noticing them, acknowledging them, and then expressing gratitude for them can be really, really helpful to propel you to kind of the next place, and then the next place, and then all of a sudden you're closer and closer to your goal. So making sure that you're really in a place of gratitude, thanking the people around you, thanking whatever it is that may be important to you spiritually, but expressing that gratitude can be really important as you're noticing those smaller things. Or just for staying on track, all right? I'm going to be grateful for the fact that I still have positive expectations around this goal. I believe it will happen in my life. So whatever it is that works for you, or that feels like a practice you can keep up, I would encourage a gratitude practice to be a part of that. And as I talked about before a little bit, making sure to kind of journal and let go of some of that worry and thought that comes up. Those worries that will inevitably surface, that things are not happening on some sort of timeline that you've created for yourself, right? That things are happening slower than you want, or maybe you don't have faith that they will happen. But that's the challenge, right? It's staying in that place of positive expectation, even when it looks like things may not turn out the way you want, right? And still believing that they're going to happen, and still having that strong positive expectation that it's coming down the way, right? So being in that space is a bit of a discipline, right? It takes conscious effort to shift your thinking. So figuring out those things that can help you shift your thinking. Is it journaling for you? Is it talking about it? Is it meditating? Is it going for a walk in nature? But those things that bring you back to that, I think are going to be really, really important for you to cultivate for your life, really, but for this period of time especially. And the last thing that I want to talk about for our video today is really around noticing and paying attention and acknowledging when you get a little bit of a nudge to do something or to take an inspired action to take you closer to your goals. So what I mean by that is sometimes we'll be presented with an opportunity that may be sort of new or out of the blue, or we may have an urging internally, sort of that gut intuitive sensation that's like, oh, maybe I should call this friend, or maybe I should go to the grocery store now, or maybe I should do this other thing. And that paying attention to those sort of gut feelings can help get you closer to your goal, right? Because as we're getting closer to our goal, as I said, there are all these sort of smaller little pieces that have to come into play in order to get there. So pay attention to some of those nudges. Pay attention to some of those actions that you're inclined to do or that you may want to do out of nowhere. And be okay with that pretty neat synchronicity that can happen, right? You may be looking for a job and you may decide to call a friend you haven't talked to in a while to go for lunch, and all of a sudden she tells you about an opportunity that would be wonderful for you, right? So pay attention to those little nudges that are the way that the the universe really is like conspiring to get things aligned to help meet your goals, right? So I would encourage you to think about some of those things that you feel sort of drawn to do or kind of nudged to do, and think about why. Think about what's behind that, and think about if that feels like something you're comfortable stepping into, right? So I hope that you guys enjoyed this challenge. It was a really fun one for me to do, for me to talk about. It's a little bit different than some of the stuff we've talked about in here before. And I just want you guys to like feel free to ask questions, feel free to check in as you're doing your goal books, feel free as you're checking in, or feel free to check in as you're moving through some of these steps and watching the videos. Just comment on the thread, right? And it'll pop the video back up higher in the group so that we can all see what you're saying or see what you're asking, and we can kind of respond and engage in a discussion, because most likely if you're having questions about something, other people are too, right? So, all right, guys, I will talk to you soon then. Have a good day.